If you were to sit down and have a conversation with your younger self, would your younger self believe the life that you are living right now as a homeschool mom? Did you picture things going a little bit differently, say as picturing as a teen or in your early 20s or as a young mom, thinking life was going to be different? And here you find yourself now as a homeschool mom, and you're saying, this is not what I had planned, but I want to do this well, or I think I want to do this well. Join me in today's episode where we are going to really encourage. I'm going to share some of my heart and some of my story as well, because it took me a while to come around to this and to fully embrace this. And I want you to also get to that point, hopefully a lot faster than me. So if you are a mom at any point that you did not see yourself as a homeschool mom, today's episode is for you.
Welcome to Little by Little Homeschool Podcast, where you'll learn tips and strategies that will empower you to home educate your children. I'm Leigh Nguyen, a homeschool mom of over 12 years, which includes 2 graduates. When I started homeschooling, I was pretty much on my own and was desperate for encouragement and help. My mission is to be a source of encouragement and help to you. Whether you are just beginning your homeschool journey or you're deep into the homeschool lifestyle, Little by Little Homeschool wants to help you stay the course, because all the time you are investing into your children is completely worth it. If you're ready to take your homeschool to new levels, keep listening.
The funny thing about homeschool is that most of us come to it not planning on actually homeschooling. We come into it, maybe our children are really young, or maybe we have children in elementary school or are older. Most of the time, we have been the people before who have said to homeschool women, "Oh, I could never do that." And then you find yourself here and you're saying, "Oh no, I still don't know if I could do it, but I am doing it. So I guess I should embrace it and really fully accept it." And you might have just become a homeschool mom when your children were just young, maybe babies, toddlers, and you made that decision. And therefore, before that point, it wasn't a part of what you thought you were going to do. Or again, maybe you have kids and you've put them into school and you've taken them home and you lived a completely different life before than you are right now. And there can be some adjustment. There can be some adjustment in just the way that you live, the way that your family functions, how you spend your time. But there's a lot of adjustment that needs to happen within our hearts as homeschool moms and in our minds as well, is accepting and saying, this is where I am. This is where God has placed me. And I am all too familiar with this scenario. My story goes something like this. I went to public school. My husband went to private school. We were very fine with school. Therefore, we just assumed we were going to put our children into school. Never had a conversation about it. Our oldest went to preschool 2 years, went off into kindergarten. Second went to preschool 2 years, went off into kindergarten. So at this point, I find myself with well, I guess we'll backtrack. She is in her second year of preschool. And so I have a 3-year-old still at home and I have a newborn. And at night, when you are in the throes of deliriousness, feeding a newborn, and you have 2 older children who they aren't going to sleep in. They're going to get up and they're going to feel well rested and they're going to be raring to go for the day. And you've got preschool to get to also, and you have other commitments. And I remember sitting there in the middle of the night feeding him and just counting down. This is where your mind goes. I began counting down the amount of years and then down to days, probably not down to hours, but years and days until he would be in preschool. Because by my calculations, I would have 2 in school full time, and then he would begin his preschool career, we'll say. And therefore, I would get 2 days a week for 2.5 hours free. So I was like, okay, in X amount of years and X amount of maybe months, days, weeks, whatever I calculated it, I will have 5 hours free a week. I was like, I can do this. I can push through. I can do this. I mean, granted, that was still 3.5 years down the road. But at that moment in my exhaustion, that felt like hope. That felt like I can do this. I can get through these next couple of years. And the thing is, I didn't just get through. I began to thrive. We got out of that newborn time. We got into a rhythm and a routine for our days. Do you want to know the funny part of that story is? I never got that time. By the time he went into preschool, That was our first year of homeschooling. I say God has a sense of humor, and this is how he and I relate is that I will have this, "Oh, I'm gonna do this," and he goes, "No, no, no. You think that's gonna be good, but I've got something better for you." And so that first year of us homeschooling, he did go to preschool. Halfway through the preschool year, I was like, I'm so tired of this having to drive. We keep interrupting our day to get him to preschool, come home, do some of our lessons. And I have to go back and get him. And I wanted to pull him out. My husband, who is not super picky about a lot of things, he's like, no, I think he should stay for the year. I said, okay, I'm going to honor that. And we finished up the year and he never went back to preschool. I was like, we can do this at home and we can just live our life. And that's when we really started to see that homeschooling is a lifestyle and we get to make the choices for how we're going to spend our time. And I wonder if you can see yourself or hear yourself in that story as well. The biggest thing when it comes to you saying, I never meant for this to be what we're going to do. And here I am finding myself doing it. And your brain is thinking to yourself, well, this isn't what we're supposed to do. There's something better on the way. Remember, I said that I thought that I had something good planned, but God said, I have something better planned for you. I want to tell you that God has something better planned for you. When we just relax and we let go, we give Him the reins, and then we allow Him to lead and to guide us, and we spend time with our kids and we sit and we just enjoy the fact that we get to be with our kids. Right now, kids all over the place are getting onto school buses, being dropped off here, daycare, all these things. I see it in my neighborhood. From my house, I can see at least half a dozen houses that in the morning, everybody's piling their kids up and heading out. And I said, I don't have to do that. The high school bus comes by at, I think, 6:45. My high schooler, he's still sleeping. If he wanted to be up, he could be up, but that would have been his own choice to maybe be up and go to the gym with his brother or to be up and making his breakfast because that is what he wants to do. Now, he doesn't sleep into all hours and stuff like that. He usually does a Bible study in the morning with my husband, with James. But all that to say, it's all in the perspective of how we look at it. I can now look and say, oh, those kids would probably really like to spend the time with their parents, but they don't always even know that. Little kids don't know that that's where they would rather be. They do, but they don't because this is what mom and dad said is okay. This is where you need to go. And so they just go along with it. But I get to stay with my kids and my kids get to stay with me and same with you. The biggest thing when it comes to saying, okay, this is not how I thought I was going to live, but this is where I am, and I need to come to terms with it, is that you need to realize that your homeschool motherhood is your ministry. You can call it your job if you want. Sometimes when we think of things in terms of a job, because there's oftentimes I'll see if you were to, I was just actually talking to a friend about childcare during a co-op, and they're like, it's really hard to find someone who wants to be in the nursery. I said, why don't you look for some homeschool high schoolers who would be willing to babysit the kids and pay them? There's something about when you have a job and you have a commitment and you're going to receive compensation for it that people will show up and they'll actually do the job and they'll do it well. Now, I'm not saying you're not going to be paid in probably money for what you're doing. You're going to be paid in so much more. You're going to be paid in dividends that you won't even know. And these dividends might not pay out for another 10, 15, 20 years, but I promise you that it's coming. So think of your motherhood in terms of this is my ministry, this is my job, this is my focus. Now, even if you work outside of the home, part time, full time, work from home, part time, full time, still, being a mom, being a homeschool mom takes a lot of your attention. So it doesn't matter if you have something else going on or volunteer stuff or you run an organization, it still is your ministry, is homeschooling and being a mom to your kids. So tell yourself this. It's going to take time for you to tell yourself this as you are doing the lessons, as you are doing the chores, as you are doing the character training and the correction and the discipleship over and over again. Say, this is my ministry. This is my focus. Something else that I find very helpful is to, well, back when I was younger, when my kids were younger, and I was younger then too, is to read a lot of books that were encouraging to me. Now you actually have podcasts and probably YouTube videos. There's all kinds of resources that you can find now to be encouraged by other moms. But for me, I only had books. And those became my lifeline. because I didn't have other homeschool moms that were a couple of steps ahead of me, or even one step ahead of me, or even in the trenches with me, who could say, "You are doing a good thing. This is your ministry right now. Focus on it." I do share every couple weeks or so, I do throw into the newsletter that I send out weekly a book that has encouraged me, or recently, or whether it's years ago. I recently shared one that was something that I read when my kids were little, and I actually read the book quite a few times. I am not somebody who read books or watches movies multiple times, but this book, I definitely did. So read books, listen to podcasts, join courses, do things that are going to encourage you and fill you up and to help you keep that focus that your homeschool motherhood is your ministry and needs to be your focus right now. Along with that, surround yourself with like-minded homeschool moms. It is totally worth the planning and the arranging and setting up time to be able to get together with your friends. Maybe it is not possible to get together very often, and you send text or voice messages to each other when you can. But surround yourself with those who are also doing life like you, but differently than you, but that they're homeschool moms. And this might not be possible for you. You might live in a place where there aren't a lot of different homeschoolers, and go ahead, get into the online communities. I have a great online Facebook group that is a private group. You can join that, and some amazing moms. So if you're listening to this podcast episode, you probably really will resonate with those moms in that group. But surround yourself with those that are thinking like you, who also are thinking of their homeschool motherhood as their ministry. It is their main focus. It's their quote unquote job, and their heart is in it, because that is going to continue to encourage you. Also, accept your quirkiness. Accept how and who you are as a homeschool mom and how you do things. It's okay if you are maybe a little bit eccentric, or you are a bit more timid and maybe reserved with everything. Just accept the way that you are going to do things. You are going to do your homeschool motherhood differently than somebody else. You can gain inspiration from somebody else, from others, but don't feel like you have to take everything that everybody else is doing and also pile it onto yourself, or that you have to change how you are. However, also, accept help if there are certain areas that are holding you back in your homeschool motherhood. Leaning into your personality or your quirkiness or the way that you like to have a routine to a day is not a bad thing. But if it is hurting your family, if it is hurting your homeschool, if it is hurting your mission as a family, it is hurting your goals, then it might be something that's holding you back. So, for example, I have heard from countless moms that being able to keep up with the chores and maintaining their home is sometimes a struggle for them. Therefore, I always encourage them to go check out the Tidy Home. That is a resource that is going to come alongside you to help you come up with exactly what is going to work for your family, not what's going to work with Sarah down the road who keeps a spotless home. And it might be an area that you struggle in, or maybe you don't fully struggle in it. But anyway, the Tidy Home, you can check out the link in the show notes for that. But if there is something that is holding your family back from reaching maybe its potential or its goals, then do accept that you might need to work on those areas. But it's okay if you're like, you know what, we're a little bit more free flowing, or you know what, we like to have more structure. That's okay. Either ends of those and somewhere in between is absolutely fine. And the final thing I want to mention, this is going to be like the icing on top or the cherry on top. What is it that they say? Either way, it's icing on the cherry, we'll say. Look for ways in how you can encourage and edify other homeschool moms. You might be a year into your homeschool journey. Guess what? You can encourage the moms that are thinking about homeschooling, or the moms that are in their first year of homeschooling. You might be a mom in your 15th year of homeschooling. Guess what? You can encourage all of the moms behind you. Whereas that mom who's in her, say, 7th year of homeschooling and is struggling, you can encourage her because you are 8 more years down the road from her. The mom who's only been homeschooling 1 year, she might not have a lot to be able to encourage the mom who's in year 7. However, the mom in year 1 can definitely encourage the mom in year 1 with her enthusiasm and with just her spirit of joy about homeschooling, and also with prayers. But look for ways on how you can encourage and edify other homeschool moms. Remember how those who have gone before you were there for you. Or maybe you didn't have anybody that was in your corner. And then you think to yourself, I want to be in other moms' corners. I want to be able to help other moms because I didn't have the help. So think of yourself as a Titus 2 homeschool mom. If you're not familiar with that, Titus is a book in the Bible. 2 is the chapter. So I'd encourage you to go ahead and check out Titus 2 in order to see where all that kind of fits. But you could be a Titus 2 homeschool mom. So once you have come to the point you're saying, you know what, this is my focus. This is my ministry. This is where I am. This is where God has me right now. Stop thinking about where I thought I would be or where I will be down the road. This is where I am right now. When you come to terms and you accept that, you're able to walk in that season with your head held high, knowing that He is doing a good work in you and through you, and knowing that the next season will come. I remember so much time thinking, homeschool, it's never going to end. I am just drowning. This is so much with all the kids, all the lessons, all the activities, all the discipleship and the discipline and the character training and everything that goes along with it. I don't know if I can continue through. And I would have to take breaks. We moved to a more year-round homeschool for me, not necessarily for the kids, for me, because it helped me to keep going. And now here I am finding myself, and you'll find yourself too. You'll feel like, I know you feel like right now, it's going to be so many years from right now. And it will be so many years, and there'll be so much that goes on in between, so many memories and so many good things. Don't miss those for wishing for a different life or wishing for the next season. I'm guilty of that at times, of wishing for the next season. And now I'm like, no, 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 stop. Let's slow down. When I have a high school junior who's wanting to jet out into the world, I'm like, no, 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 slow down, slow down. And I have to kind of keep him slowed down just a little bit and let him fly and soar here and there. And there's that balance, a delicate balance there. But as life continues to go by, we suddenly find ourselves a little bit down the road. Maybe you're planning a vacation and you're like, oh, this is going to take forever till it gets here. And suddenly you're there at the vacation. Same thing comes with homeschooling. And I want you to be able to look back and say, you know what? We maybe had a rough start. Maybe that rough start was a couple of weeks, couple months, couple years. But I then came around, embraced it, and decided I was going to put my full heart into this. And you will be so glad years down the road when you get to that point and you're launching your final homeschool child and say, you know what? We did that. We ran that race and we ran it well. If you are in need of encouragement when it comes to your homeschool, you want to get it all set up or you want to get it back on course, your homeschool blueprint is able to do that. It doesn't matter if you are going into your first homeschool year or you've been homeschooling for a while. It's going to meet your needs right where you are. You can find that resource at littlebylittlehomeschool.com/blueprint. It will help you set up your homeschool. Therefore, you do not have to worry about that and you can focus on the ministry and the relationships of your homeschool. I hope that this episode has really blessed you. I hope that my story and my way of coming to homeschool and just the truth of what that looked like helps you to see yourself in it and helps you to see that you can get to the other side. I am over here cheering you on. You are doing good. Lean into it, love it, do it well.
Thank you for listening, friend. I'd love to connect with you more. You can find social media links in the show notes and share this episode with a friend who could use a boost to her homeschool. See you back here real soon.